Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning. Today is Friday, October 31st, 2025. Happy Halloween.
Thank you. A lot of people who are uncreative, they last minute when they go to like Halloween parties, people are like, "Who are you dressed at?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm Jared Resnick," and people actually are like, "Oh, this lame," this. But this year, I'm actually going as Dan Reeses. This is the first year in my entire life. And I use the name Jared Resnick because I went to high school with this guy, and I'm allowed to say his name.
Yeah.
That's it, as much as I want. And I think that there is a lot of misunderstanding as to why I have remained silent. And the truth is that I spoke for the first time in the township of Livingston publicly, and I'm going to be speaking every single month for a very long time, it looks like. But essentially, the point is that I'm going to continue what I had to say because I was only given 3 minutes. So when a human being is a victim of tens of millions of dollars of crime, has had his children, his life, his family, everything taken away because he is the victim of domestic violence, and you have a town that is as sophisticated and well-funded as Livingston, New Jersey, and in the beginning of the town hall meeting, the audacity of a group of humans to stand up and do a prayer for the victims in Jamaica who died, who they don't have any relation to or know whatsoever. It is almost like they don't understand that there's millions of human beings that die every day. There are 7.8 billion human beings in this world. Where is the moment of silence for all those people? Should you just shut the fuck up and walk around like this because you're pretty much,
Constantly
giving us silence? No, because of the pompous, the arrogance, the inability to understand that in your own town you have criminality within the police department. And rather than doing a single thing about that, the mayor has chosen to protect himself, his legacy, and more importantly, the money. And I'll get into all of that in a second because people lie, but numbers don't lie. And you see, the Township of Livingston leadership is hiding a very, very large secret, correct?
Very.
And we identified what it is. And on this channel, I'll show it to you. And most likely they'll try to, remember, I've been arrested 5 times already this summer and the fall for crimes I never committed, all because I came forward as being a victim of domestic violence. I want to explain to everybody what they have actually done by the absolutely illegal court orders. And I have no options. Usually I have this thing called 2 options that I do. So I give myself 2 options. And what I say is, all right, option 1 is I violate a court order, non-criminal, meaning there is no ability for me to ever be arrested for filming any YouTube videos. It is absolutely illegal and impossible for me to be arrested for filming YouTube videos. Let me explain to you why. Number 1, the U.S. Constitution. I assure you that my entire argument against anyone who wants to silence me, no matter what they have to say, is based on the First Amendment of the United States. And I will take this all the way to the Supreme Court. Therefore, you cannot lock me up in a civil matter. You can sanction me. You can punish me in civil matters, but with contempt of court, but you cannot have me arrested. Even though I've been arrested 4 times for this content, you no longer can, and I will explain to you why. My second option would be to stay silent and, do nothing because I'm so afraid of, losing my kids or something like that. I want to explain to everyone what they have done. They have not taken my children away from me. I see my children as independent, beautiful human beings that have rights. I do not own them. Your entire perception of parenting is so morphed and backwards that you don't realize that you have taken a father away from 2 children. When you see a funeral of a human that is killed in vain, what you look at are 2 children, or even more, sometimes 3, 4, that lost their parents. Based on the way the court order reads, should I die, my children wouldn't even be allowed to visit me at the funeral. And I want to explain to everyone that I am right now formally accusing the Township of Livingston in formal capacity as leadership of Livingston, especially Mayor Ed Meinhardt, 100% guilty of child abuse, negligence, child abuse, and a complete and utter lack of empathy as human beings. And the fact that Ed Meinhardt can be a leader of a religious institution, while at the same time being supportive of a police department that took away my First Amendment right of freedom of speech and suppressed the media, meaning that this man is a Jewish man who probably has Holocaust survivors. And we are in a society where the red flags of the Nazi regime are flying all over the place by virtue of the leadership protecting itself as best they can. And all in the same breath, he says, I am Ed Meinhardt, the mayor of this and the president of this, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You are all, I'm accusing the family court of violating the law, and I cannot be a part of it. I actually have a constitutional duty and a right to post the videos I'm going to post, simply because if I wouldn't, I'd be in violation of something called the Whistleblower Act. You see, there's something called the Whistleblower Act. When a human being is a whistleblower against criminal activity, corruption, and things like that, you are not allowed to create any court orders whatsoever to silence this person. What the judge has done has violated the law to a point that should I comply with it, I would be complicit in violating the law. And I'm never going to do that. You want me to break the law?
No.
There's a law that says that I cannot be silenced by XYZ. If I actually am silenced, that means I'm compliant with the law. That means that I'm breaking the much larger law, which is the Whistleblower Act, the federal law, as well as the 1991 Act of the Prevention of Domestic Violence. You see, what's happening in the court system in itself is psychological torture. By taking away my home, like for example, my wife has covered the cameras in the home. If you walk up to my home, the front door camera has duct tape on it. That is not safe for children. The police department have stated that this is in the best interest. Child Protective Services is totally okay with this. The reason for this is because there's some real seriously illegal activity that's going on while I'm not home, because I would never tolerate it. Furthermore, I have millions of dollars in assets that I have fully declared in bankruptcy court as an approximate valuation of $500,000 of cost, with the actual market value in the multiple millions of dollars. And those assets have been systemically removed from my house over the last few months by Mallory, her support system. And I assure you that based on my review of what is after this is all over, you will see this. I will also remind everyone that Jamie was arrested for not even being a part of any conflict whatsoever. Meaning that until I stepped forward and said Mallory is in violation of the restraining order, she had no problems with Jamie. She then went into the police station, made one statement, and Jamie was arrested. There was no investigation. No one gave a shit that a lawyer that represents Mallory called the police department and told them to arrest Jamie. And they did it. And the chief has the audacity to tell me that his officers are highly skilled and ranked in domestic violence and equally balancing the rights. While me being the shit beaten at, having the shit beaten out of me for 6 years, had absolutely nothing done by neither the Livingston Police Department, the County of Essex, the Sheriff's Department, no one did a single thing. That means that if I was a female, you guys would have allowed me to be beaten by my husband for 6 straight years?
And then let him take the house.
There's an actual attempted murder weapon inside of the Livingston Police Department. The County of Essex says they have no knowledge of it. The chief of police said all we do is communicate with the prosecutor's office. The chief of police, in a closed-door meeting, chose to lie to protect both himself and his department, rather than taking responsibility for what they have done. The mayor told me that he is, in the same breath, recognizing that I'm not guilty of anything until proven guilty, which I will not be because there's A, no evidence, nor did I do anything. 2, he fully supports and believes that his police department will prevail, which means that the mayor himself is negligent and responsible for police utilizing illegally the gun and the badge to have me arrested, to have me silenced, because I'm the true victim of all of this.
Yes. And arrested and completely.
Now, you should all be ashamed of yourself, and I'll tell you why. Because I am not talking about the hundreds of other cases. I know for a fact that during one of my arrests, I was in jail with a guy who did nothing wrong but communicate with his ex-wife in Livingston, New Jersey. His stepdaughter, whatever, is my son's friend in school. That's how well I actually am connected to this human being. He said that they invented a story about domestic violence and threw him in jail. That's Livingston. That's 2 men. Those are the only 2 humans I've met being arrested. Were arrested under the same conditions by the same department doing the same illegal crime. This is crime. This is not like, oh, you know, I'm yelling on YouTube over here. You guys are paying money for actors to commit crime. Your leadership is completely inept. They have no concept of anything except balancing a budget to make sure that everyone they know gets paid. And everyone in Livingston is so scared. You are all so scared. I want to tell you a true story. This is a 100% true story. About 6 years ago or so, maybe 5 years ago, 5 to 6 years ago, I was a member of a country club. Jamie was a member of this country club. I was a member for 5 years before then, maybe 6. I never had a single written incident, not a single complaint, not a single fight with a single person. Is this true?
Yeah.
Okay, that's 6 years. One day I was on the club course, and I find myself constantly in these situations. I was on the course, and I was very close to the clubhouse, and I heard a woman screaming. It wasn't a normal scream, it was a danger scream. There was something very wrong. I took a deep breath, and I realized that I am surrounded by absolute cowards who will do absolutely nothing in the face of danger, and I really had no interest in going to the site. So I took another deep breath, and then I heard the scream again within a second. I immediately I was playing with 4 people at the time. It was Jared Hutter, I think Adam Kessler, I believe Jody Brockman, and maybe
Isn't it only 4 people play at a time?
I don't remember who the 4 were. So I'm throwing out, and I believe Fabiano was there, Greg Fabiano. I have no issues with a single one of these people except Adam Kessler professionally. Adam Kessler professionally should not be a licensed attorney. But personally, I think he's a nice guy. But professionally is a totally different thing, and a lot of people don't know the difference between the 2 of them, personal and professional. Especially in my life, no one gives me a chance to actually speak, explain that I have one of the most difficult and important jobs in the entire world. It is not monetized through the traditional financial means, but had I not been victimized and had hundreds of millions of dollars stolen from me, then I would be totally cool. But at this time, I have to rebuild everything, and that's not a problem at all, especially given the fact that I'm extremely mentally healthy and fully stable. Yes, I am angry. What human would not be angry when their children are being abused on a daily basis? By removing their biological father, who absolutely loves them and is really good to them, you are abusing children. I am telling you right now that in federal court, on Netflix, the world will see that the entire town is negligent by watching and doing nothing about it. I'm going to do something about it by filing additional paperwork, but I assure you that you have 31,000 human beings, you have some very powerful human beings. If you want to silence me, you could easily silence me by having judges completely ignore. For example, my judge in one of my federal matters, her name is Judge Salas, she was appointed to and groomed and personally raised politically and in the legal world by Senator Bob Menendez. This is a true story. I put Bob Menendez in prison for a decade. Do you really think Judge Salas gives a shit about Dan Reeses? Let me tell you something, okay? That is a federal judge. That is how corrupt we as a society are, that you have just listened to that statement, and it just in one ear out the other. Let's go. This is video 1. I'm gonna show you how many videos it takes for me to get my children back, or for my children to have me back. I will explain to everyone that I love my boys more than you can ever humanly imagine. And just because the courts are breaking the law, lawyers are breaking the law, Mallory's breaking the law, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna be breaking the law. I have to follow the Whistleblower Act. I can't just simply go against the federal act and comply with a court order, or else I would be complicit and I would be just as negligent as you are. The fact that I know the law does not mean that I'm crazy. The fact that I am 7 times the most prolific pro se filer in US history, and I never filed a litigation until I was 39 years old. And even then, it was mostly bankruptcy stuff in the beginning. Let me explain to everyone. I'm not insane. I am eccentric, I am fast, I am smart, I'm not very good looking, but I'm working on it, and Resnick.
But I'm working.
I am working on it, and I am extremely strong, both mentally as well as mental physical, not fighting. I don't fight. I'm a non-violent human being. I don't believe in violence. I believe that humans that raise their fists or are physically violent have a serious mental illness. I am not accusing anyone of mental illness because at this point, all I care about are my 2 children and the fact that they have no father. If there were other people in this town, if there were other children in this town that lost their father, I would care. I would do something about it. I would say, this is not okay. We need to go and raise an opinion. We need to have an emergency town hall meeting about what happened. How did it happen? The courts are clearly failing us as a town. We need to take matters into our own hands, but you are so afraid. So on the golf course, as I hear the screaming, I get in the golf cart, and these fucking electric golf carts are so slow, and I have to go as fast as I humanly can to the site of the scream. Third scream comes in. I am about 40% away from pay dirt, which is the site of the scream. I see that it's a closed gated community that's behind the club. I promise you this is a 100% true story. There's not a single detail that I'm missing that's incorrect. I'm not going to tell the story of who the human is, nor am I going to tell the context of what actually happened, because that is not okay. It was a real tragedy, but this is the point of the story. It's about an 8-foot, maybe 9-foot fence or so like that. I do something really, really cool when I get to a fence, which is I can flip it. I don't recommend anyone doing this, and I was about 40 pounds overweight at the time, so it definitely wasn't a fun thing. Then I had to make entry. Luckily, the back door was fully opened. I had to go in immediately, at which point I saw a female on the ground in a fetal position, screaming at the top of her lungs. Unfortunately, we live in a very dangerous county where home invasions are very common, so what I had to first do is sweep the entire house. I had nothing on me, so I grabbed a kitchen knife, a very sharp one actually, and made sure that I walked into each and every room of the house to make sure that there's no people or anything like that. I also saw that the front door was locked, which means that no one who robs a house can lock a front door, nor was the woman locking the door and then screaming. The back door was open, but I saw that there was no movement or tracks on the grass as I ran up. See, these are the things that have to go through my mind in less than 1/4 of 1 second. Once the house was swept, I want to remind everyone there could have easily been a man with a gun or anything else like that, which I couldn't give a fuck about because there was a female that needed protection. I then took care of the situation and waited about half an hour for Officer Nalen to arrive from the Livingston Police Department, at which point he took over. The woman was safe, but the tragedy was definitely not averted. I then walked back out after about an hour, hour and a half, and watching one of the most painful things in my entire life. I then had to go back and jump the fence again, but this time there was an audience of about 40 human beings who are members of the club. There wasn't a single person who jumped the fence. There wasn't a single person who said a single word to me except what happened when I got in the cart. I then drove my cart back, walked into the pool, and walked up to Mrs. Jamie Resnick at the time, as well as Mrs. Corey Watson at the time. Do you remember what happened? You don't remember the two of you sitting there?
I remember we were sitting there and
you don't remember the conversation at all? Not at all. You literally don't remember drinking beers with Corey
I remember that you telling me the story.
So why
that
don't you walk
pulled
up and say, what did I say? How could you say you don't remember and then say you remember me
You
saying
remember, no, I don't remember what you said.
it?
I
Can you
remember I was sitting there
paraphrase?
with Corey.
Can you paraphrase and confirm that this is a true
This is
story?
100% true story.
I don't understand. You haven't said a single
100%.
word.
This is 100% a true story. 100%.
All right.
I
Let me tell you
remember
something,
being there.
okay?
I remember everybody and then I remember you coming up, but I don't remember the exact wording, what you said. What'd you say?
I said, how are you? That was the
Other
first
than
thing. It's my big pool joke.
Yeah.
And then I said, I'm having a really bad day. And I kind of broke out and started crying. And that was the first time I cried in front of you.
Really?
Yeah, and you forgot all of that.
I don't remember you crying.
Yeah, I was talking and I was like, you know what, I gotta go. And then you came up to me about a half an hour later and you're like, is this true what I hear is happening? It's like, yeah, it's true. You were the first person I walked up to and tried to talk to. But you were drunk. And so was Corey.
Maybe that's why I don't remember.
And you see, you know what really didn't happen? Not a single person in the club said thank you. The club didn't even recognize the event as actually happening on their property. Because it happened on the private property across. But the actual human that had to make sure the situation is okay, no one even said a single word. I don't need a thank you. I don't do what I do for a thank you. I do it to make sure this woman is alive because not a single person in the entire quarter of a mile that heard her screaming flinched.
I remember you saying that. You're
And
the only person
that's the
who
most
moved.
disturbing part of this whole thing is that what I would expect is a few grown men to show up and be like, what the fuck just happened?
Right. And
That was a cry for help. That was an alarm. But everyone was so busy living their lives and hitting a golf ball and worrying only about themselves. So let's fast forward approximately maybe 6 months or so from that moment. And I run something called the Rittenhouse trial via being the CEO of Pierce Bainbridge. And one of my clients, actually, I'm very proud of, she became the director of national intelligence. Her name is Tulsi. Tulsi, I know you're watching, so I'm really proud of you. Please keep up the great work. And I know that when we took your cases on, you were in a very dark place. I was not personally involved yet with the firm, but I made sure that the cases were maintained and you were represented properly. That was my job. I did it, and I'm really happy for you, and I hope your continued success shines a light on our society and the way we treated you as a human being, not just a politician, which people forget is a job. Now, let's go into what actually happened at the club. The reality is very simple, it's very sad, and I did really well at the club. I shined. You'll see my Halloween costumes. I have the best costume. Mal and I definitely killed Halloween. No?
For sure.
We had the best costumes by far, and we live in a really, 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 really toxic environment, which showed its colors by literally inventing a story that during a dinner where I know that I was with Jay Gold, who was being really, really difficult about dinner rolls for some reason, and kept sending the dinner rolls.
This happened the same season as the other incident?
I believe it happened within a few months. Because I met you, and then we were together at the club for like 6 months or maybe a year. We played one round of golf.
Yeah. Okay, Halloween. Dinner
Halloween.
rolls.
Yeah, so dinner rolls. So then